This town was one of the richest towns in Indiana. You can tell by the size of the mansions that are there on the river. The river being the main reason there was wealth brought to this community.
New Albany was a vibrant place at one time. There was a lot of places to go dancing. But when my friend come up missing, the town went downhill.
Whoever knows about what happened to her, I'd like for them to call me or call here, police department.
There was not a lot of follow-up on further investigation, and people with knowledge about what happened are fading.
There was these neighbors, and just something about their creepiness kind of creeped me out, really. I didn't trust them.
There were rumors flying everywhere. We didn't know what to think.
What kind of secrets might there have been in our friend's life?
Sit down. Sit. Good boy. Huey, come here. Close up. You be good. I moved into changed, I mean, the houses and the buildings are all still the same over there. But Robin was the first person that I met when I moved in over there. And I ended up giving her a ride to the grocery store. She wanted a Coke. It was an instant connection. We both had somebody new to talk to. We were friends from then on. We were talking to each other every day. I think the first person that I can actually remember being in her life was Chris. Chris was probably her first love of her life. He had a friend, Eugene, that ran around with him, and the three of them hung out together all the time. It's like the three amigos. And he said, Robin's missing. And wanted to know if I knew anything or if I had spoken with her. And I hadn't spoken to her in a couple days. I was worried sick because it was out of character for her not to let somebody know where she was at.
I'm at home, and I got a phone call from Chris, my brother. And he was asking, is Robin there? And I said, no, Chris, I haven't seen Robin. Chris said, well, Robin is life. And he just couldn't understand what was going on, where she was at.
My wife tells me Chris is saying Robin's missing. She didn't come home. And so we're driving right over there right away. And I pull up, and I'm asked Chris, I said, well, when was the last time you saw her? And he told me it was over at the neighbor's. Chris took off with Robin's mother and sister in the car to look down the river, look at apartment complex, grocery store where she shops. Me and my brother, Butch, we got looking for her, but we didn't find her anywhere.
Thank y'all. You too. I had big shoes to fill when I became a police officer in the city of New Albany because of who my father was. There is a legacy in this city of Parsons being involved in law enforcement. In 1990, my dad had been on the force about 21 years as an investigator. $1990. It's a typical Southern Indiana hot day. At this time, I am a patrolman. And on that day, Our shift sergeant relayed to us that we had a missing person. Chris Baxter had reported his wife missing, that she had been missing since June 19th and had not been heard from since. And so we were made aware of that and made aware to be on the lookout for a Robin Lynn Baxter. During the course of the day, I checked the neighborhood, checked the area, checked locations that Robin Baxter might frequent based on my experiences being a patrolman in that beat. I knew some of her acquaintances. I knew of things that she liked to do, so likely was going to check those kind of areas. But unfortunately, during the course of that day when I learned that Robin Baxter was missing, I did not see any signs of her. It's not uncommon for one to become disenfranchised with a relationship and take a little trip or maybe even disappear with somebody else for a while. So I don't believe any of us felt like there was foul play at this time.
Chris started to panic. He searched everywhere, so he went to the local news to see if he could get some extra help.
I didn't start worrying about it until I was at work Thursday. I thought she was at her mom's house or at a friend's house.
This is the Ohio River. You see the power plant, the double stacks down there that has water intakes, and oftentimes large debris or whatever would be in the river, oftentimes got pulled over into that area from the suction of the power plant. There were some workers going up to do maintenance work on those smokestacks. They noticed something in the water. They could tell that it was the partially clad body of a human. That body was... The chief of police was told that it was possible that the body they had recovered was our missing woman, Robin Baxter.
An initial inspection of the body showed that it was extremely damaged, and it would require work to identify this particular individual positively.
The body was photographed at the medical examiner's office, and we called Chris Baxter to the police station to make an identification on the photographs. And so this changes the case. It's gone from a missing persons report to now we have a criminal case. The question was addressed to Chris Baxter: could Robin have jumped off the bridge and committed suicide? Chris's response to that was no. Robin was afraid of water. Robin was afraid of heights. And that just wasn't the way Robin was. Chris Baxter was told that he could go home, but they would want him to come back and make a statement, and he agreed to do so.
It was on the news.
A New Albany woman killed, her body found in a river, and now...
And it was devastating. It was like I wanted the person to pay for what they had done to her. Somebody threw her in a river like she was trash. And it's just not the way somebody's life is supposed to end.
Chris came over to the house and said they had found Robin's body. We both just sat down and cried. Chris was very, very upset. It's like, I can't believe she's gone.
There's a lot of memories in this building. Me and my dad both worked here in this building. And this would be my dad right here. My dad was involved in this case, but he was not the lead detective. He was asked if he could come in and conduct an interview with Chris Baxter. Chris Baxter was willing to come in and talk, and they'd be at the neighbor's house. And they drank some beers, and then after a while, returned home together. He said that they were home, and he said sometime around 10 p.m., they got into an argument over food. Chris says that he went to bed and woke up sometime between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and Robin was gone. So he went to the neighbor's house where they had been at the party to see if she was there, and she was not. There was a search warrant secured. The house was clean. At this point, we don't have any evidence pointing toward Chris.
There were rumors going around that Robin went back to the neighbor's house after the fight, and that was the night she disappeared. I actually think one of the neighbors might have had a little thing for her. I'm not sure which one, but she would spend a lot of time there when her husband was at work, because he worked basically a graveyard shift. I don't know if it had anything to do with it, but...
This was some pictures that my grandma had of Robin. Robin was my aunt, but she was more like an older sister. She always liked to be silly. If she could make you laugh, she would make you laugh. As I got older, I could always call and talk to Robin. Like if I had a problem, I could always remember that morning. I was 18 at the time. I went to work that afternoon, and I remember seeing my mother come in and talk to my supervisor. I was actually excited because I thought they had found Robin. We knew where she was. And then I remember she said, "Honey, Robin was found dead in the river." And I was devastated. She was such a sweet, kind, caring person.
Robin loved the arcade. It really was her happy place. I like to think it was her safe place, like it is for many of us. But a murder in such a small town, such as New Albany, resonates very deeply when it happens to someone that you know and that you've seen on the, passing on the street. It hits really hard. We didn't know what to think.
Robin was so much fun. You started looking at people thinking, is that the person maybe who did it?
It's very shocking for something like this to happen. We went from 100% happy to something just bad happened here, dark and sad. It just made the whole neighborhood seem different.
Robin's my cousin. And we just kind of hung around together. We go over to her house, she'd drink a few beers. She was a very friendly person. She always talked to everybody. To be with. I remember when she was murdered, I cried because I couldn't believe they'd do that. They probably knocked her in the head, beat her up, and probably raped her, everything else, and threw her in the river. And there was some few neighbors I didn't trust. And I thought, what did they do?
The three guys that lived over at the house that Robin was at that night. Doug Reed, Steve Burns, and Rick Harden. 3 single guys, and just trust them.
So I went and asked neighbors what happened to Robin. I went up to Ricky and asked Ricky, I want to know what's going on. What happened to Robin? He said, I can't say, but I need you to shut up and just stay out of it. I said, no, I'm not staying out of it. I want to know what's going on. He said, I can't say nothing because it endangered my life. One thing I tell you, just shut up and stay out of it. Don't ask no questions. I said, I ain't saying nothing. If I find out you did anything to it, you're going to pay the piper, buddy, because I'm...
His home was here on Troy Street. There was another house where Doug Reed, Buzzard Burns, and Ricky Urton were having the party. That's the last place she was seen, and there was suspicion that one or all 3 of those men were involved in Robin's death and how her body ended up in the river. Investigators asked Reed, Urton, and Burns what the relationship was with Robin. All 3 men stated that they were friends, that Robin would come over often in the party, and they stated that was the last time they saw Robin Baxter alive. They would be each other's alibi. All 3 stated the same, that they didn't leave. All 3 stated the same, that Robin left after the party. But with these 3, they're friends, and a friend will lie for a friend, and so, you know, we as investigators had that issue to deal with. So there would need to be independent investigation beyond these 3 men's statements and their alibis for each other.
Chris Baxter told investigators that he had become very suspicious of Robin and her relationship with her 3 neighbors who lived together. But investigators just didn't feel like there was enough evidence in the case to bring charges against Ricky Urton, Steve Burns, and Doug Reed.
It's hard not knowing what happened to Robin, and we go to different bars to drink if Chris didn't want to go. I found out that she went to the bar that night, and the bartender said that she was talking with one of the guys that was there drinking. And they said that it was late, and she had left with one of the men. And maybe that guy that left with her was the one that did it.
The spider plants kind of remind me of Robin because she had several of them. Robin was always a lot of fun. She brought everybody happiness when she was around. And when she passed, it was like people were scared to get together anymore. They were worried that there might be somebody out there that could kill them. We all often wondered if the killer was still in the New Albany area and actually got away with the murder of Robin.
Yes, we got it right.
After Robin was murdered, it made you that takes place. So when something like this happens, that gossip just goes, you know, door to door. You can practically watch it run down the street.
There were rumors flying everywhere. I heard a rumor that Robin had left to go meet another guy the night that she disappeared, but I mean, that's just a rumor.
There were some rumors that maybe she was having an affair, You begin to wonder if she had a double life or what was going on.
At point, someone's going to find out.
I heard a lot of rumors, but the only person that I ever suspected was Eugene. They were friends. They were always together. I didn't care at all for Eugene. He just reminded me of somebody that was sneaky. I didn't trust him.
I heard that Robin dated Eugene before Chris. Eugene thought he was God's gift for women, that he could get any woman he wanted. And I don't know, maybe he did.
Some people, with those allegations floating around, Eugene was interviewed. Eugene told detectives that he and Robin were boyfriend and girlfriend prior to Chris and Robin's relationship. Eugene denied ever having a relationship with Robin once Chris was with her. Whether that was truth or not, what reason did Eugene Higgs have to murder Robin Baxter? There is no testimony that Eugene Higgs was angry at Robin or Robin was angry at Eugene. So why? Why would...
Stages of the homicide investigation, we simply did not have enough evidence to charge Eugene Higgs, Steve Burns, Doug Reed, or Ricky Urton for any crime. And unfortunately, at this point in time, the Baxter case started to go cold.
I was angry. You know, I know people can't constantly, every day, keep trying to find the needle in the haystack. You know, who did this? Why did they do it? You know, where's the murder weapon? You know, I guess you just have to draw a line somewhere sooner or later and it all be done. They shared, and I never saw him after that.
They're investigating everything. It just seemed like everything stopped. It's like a cold case. It ended. And they held this up because they seemed like they didn't care.
When a case goes cold like hers, it makes you feel hopeless. You just hope that a tip comes in or something. And you don't want her to be forgotten.
It is now 2011, and I have moved up in the ranks. After my many years in the patrol division, I'd earned the right to come up into the criminal investigation division, where my dad had worked for 35 years. It was an honor to get to move into a position where my dad had worked for so many years. My first case, what I felt like I could do different with this case was add tenacity. I would pursue it with all my being. I was going to solve a case that couldn't be solved before.
It all started back in June of 1990 when Robin Lynn Baxter went missing. Her body turned up in the Ohio River. She had been beaten in the head, but the case would go cold. But those who knew her hope justice will be served.
Over the years, I thought about the case from time. I wanted the person to pay for what they did. I wondered, did the investigators just give up on finding answers, you know, to who did it and why they did it? And when Perry Parsons became a detective, like his father, Paul, I hoped and prayed that he would find out who actually murdered Robin.
When When I opened up the case file, there was a lot of names in there that I wanted to follow up on. Robin were partying with the night she went missing. Doug Reed, Ricky Urton, and their frequent visitor, Steve Buzzard Burns. I learned that back in 1990, the investigators had received information that Robin Baxter was in a vehicle with the three men. There's sexual advances to Robin. Robin repulses these advances, and they get angry, and they beat her to death, and they throw her body in the Ohio River. Through the course, in a gay relationship, and so the sexual attractions would not match. That wouldn't be happening. I wanted to conduct my own interviews with all three men, but unfortunately, prior to me picking up the investigation, that all three of those men had died of AIDS. It was later determined that there was no motive for any of those three men to kill Robin Baxter. It was strictly a friendship.
Appreciate you coming down. I'm Detective Perry Parsons with the New Albany Police. Everything we're doing right now is on the record, okay? What I wanted to ask you about was Chris Baxter and Eugene Higgs.
I firmly believed that Eugene was involved. I often wondered if Robin had rejected Eugene, and this caused an issue.
Robin was not too honest to her husband.
You think Chris suspected them messing around?
I'm pretty positive.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Chris said that.
At some point, you thought that Chris did it because it's in the report that you heard. Chris would beat her.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Because he was mad and he was mean to her. Could he get me, he'd be done like that.
All right.
I felt my heart, he done it.
There was rumors that Robin was having an affair, and I just didn't know if Chris knew about it or not. I mean, there was some people that was up in arms because they thought my brother did it. And then others heard that she had been at the bar and left with someone else. And I said, so he could have been the one that did it.
The information we've gathered up to this point shows that either Chris Baxter or Eugene Higgs killed Robin Baxter. I remember many of day and evening just mind turning on statements that I've received on which way I was going to go with them and what I was going to pursue next, either Chris Baxter or Eugene Higgs. As I'm going through case files, I noticed Charles Lance. Charles never got a return phone call.
After Robin was murdered, I was never questioned by any detective whatsoever, but I called police. I said, look, there's some very important information I have that they had to know. I've been doing construction work all my life, and after Rob's death, Chris Baxter wanted to learn how to do drywall repair. Big patch that was freshly done. He did not let the drywall compound even get dry. I was kind of suspicious of Chris because Chris had a temper. We go over his house and show this about 6 foot tall aluminum pole, inch and a half, probably about 30, 40 pounds, but it could kill you. He'd sit there and brag, this is my enforcer, I don't need a gun. This is what makes people follow the rules and stuff. And then he called and said she was missing. We went over looking for it. It was missing too.
one man's word against another. We still needed hard evidence to link Chris to this crime.
As I was digging through the case file, I see a photo that shows Chris Baxter with a long, shiny rod, just like Charles Lance had said. During the additional digging, I came upon the McMillans and their involvement back in the fall.
It was 1990 when we moved in the house. We had just moved in there at Christmas time. We had a black chair, and we were putting the chair inside of the closet. The corner of the chair hit the wall, and it broke a huge piece of the wall out. My husband was looking in the hole, and he says, "Look, I found this rod." And he pulls it out, and it's a yay long big round. He thought he was gonna make some nunchucks with it. A couple months went by, and there was a knock on the door. It said, "I have that rod." And he said, "You do?" So they ended up sending that off to the lab. The detective did look in the wall, and he was in there digging around, looked down, and found a tissue and a jersey glove next to the rod.
I went to the property room and gathered all the evidence that was there. The tissue and glove are still in evidence, but the evidence technician informed me that the rod had been lost back in 1990. There was no viable testing to discover whose DNA has become a viable tool for law enforcement.
More than 20 years later, there had been leaps and bounds in forensic science and DNA. The glove and the tissue found in the wall were tested and was found to have Chris's DNA. Since the tissue and the glove was found in the wall next to the metal rod, we believe this was actually the instrument that was used to kill Robin Baxter.
I knew where Chris Baxter lived, and we went to his home and requested that he accompany us to the police station about everything that I had learned. He threw his hands up and said, "I'm done. I want a lawyer." So at that point, the questioning had to stop.
New Albany police say they have made an arrest in a cold case murder dating back nearly 22 years.
Police arrested 56-year-old Christopher Baxter Thursday afternoon after officers reopened the case and talked to him again. He and his wife had a violent past, and that on the night she went missing, he had been drinking and claimed he blacked out.
People go, "Oh my."
At this point of my investigation, I am quite sure that Chris Baxter was becoming more hostile. There was also knowledge that Chris was angry at Robin. That reached a culmination on June 19th, sometime in the evening hours. I believe that Chris became enraged with Robin and struck her in the head and face with a solid aluminum rod, to the point I'm confident in the information we've gathered up to this point that he is our man.
The Floyd County Prosecutor's Office worked hard to develop the evidence we needed to prove that this happened beyond a reasonable doubt. This case has so many nuances to it that makes it incredible. A father and son investigating it over 22 years. The original prosecutor is out of office, a new prosecutor takes over, and then prosecutes the case, and gets a guilty verdict on murder that withstood multiple appeals. Great job on his part.
Once the trial culminated and Baxter was found guilty, my dad told me, "I'm proud of you. You did a really good job." The affirmation from my dad, who, as I've told you before, is a legend here. So to hear that from him carried a ton of weight. Yeah, meant everything to me.
I felt a lot of different emotions. You know, knowing that the aunt that you loved, she's not going to be in your life anymore. You just feel like a piece of you is missing.
Well, Robin just had a beautiful personality. I don't know, you just can't find words to explain it, really. You just feel like your heart just cracked. It was just brutal.
I wish she was still here. When I go see her at her grave, I would say, why didn't you let us know things were as bad as they were? We would have helped. Not deserve to die the way she did. Nobody does. And I miss her.